All right, well, welcome. My name is Pete Bazumic, and I am the chair of the Shenandoah Group of the Sierra Club and a member of the 50 by 25 Clean Energy for All Campaign Steering Committee. The 50 by 25 Clean Energy for All campaign is dedicated to switching our city's electric grid to clean, renewable energy, making our city more energy efficient, and using this transition to create more equitable and socially just community. Today, the 50 by 25 Clean Energy for All campaign presents an interview and conversation with Harrisonburg Mayor Dina Reed and the Reverend Dr. Faith Harris. Reverend Dr. Faith B. Harris is a faith leader, ordained Baptist minister, community organizer, and activist. The Reverend Dr. Harris serves as vice chair for Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy and chair of the Virginia Interfaith Power and Light, which is a faith-based environmental justice nonprofit that serves people of all faiths. Mayor Dina Reed has served as mayor of the city of Harrisonburg since her historic city council win in 2016, in which she received the most votes in council history. Named to the 2018 Essence Magazine Woke 100 Women, Reed is now in her second term as Harrisonburg's first African-American female mayor and is currently running for re-election. We are very pleased and excited that both Mayor Reed and Reverend Dr. Harris are able to join us today. Thank you both very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. And Reverend Dr. Faith Harris, thank you so much for joining me and having this very important dialogue.
I'm happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation. And it's an honor to have this conversation with you, Mayor Reed. I'm excited about your work and so very proud of the work you've done, and it's just exciting to hear the work you've done in the city around environmental and energy justice. And so again, thank you for having me here today. I just kind of want to talk about, first start with a definition of energy justice. And this definition comes from University of Michigan professor, Dr. Tony Reams, where he says energy justice is defined as the fair and equitable access to affordable, reliable, and clean energy services. And I think that really sets the stage or the tone for what we mean when we're talking about energy and energy justice. That there is affordable access, and we also probably want to start beginning to talk about ownership. That it ought not all be in the hands of large conglomerates, fossil fuel conglomerates, but that with renewables, we have the opportunity as individuals to kind of take our that power and that into our own power and to control our own energy access. And so that and that would goes a long way in helping to keep it and make it affordable and reliable for individuals and for communities. So energy justice is something that I think we should be talking more about, that it actually needs to frame our conversation as we're thinking about the future and what does it mean for specifically for Virginians to be moving towards a renewable future. That we recognize that it needs to be affordable, that it needs to be efficient, it needs to be reliable, but also that we need to be thinking about how do we as individual citizens own and participate in a power relationship related to energy.
Yes, I find as more that I become more familiar with energy justice, that I learned something new. And it's really an educational piece. You know, we need to educate, especially our Black and Brown communities. Mm-hmm. And so could you please break down some of the terms? So let's start with, what does renewable energy mean?
So when we talk about renewable energy, we're talking about the energy that comes from sources that are readily available. And and readily renewable. For instance, we're talking about solar, we're talking about wind. Those are solar panels, and those are wind turbines that actually produce energy instead of and in lieu of coal and or natural gas.
And how are the issues of energy and justice intertwined? And like, how are they intertwined with each other? And why is that important?
One of the ways that we think when we're thinking about justice and we're thinking about energy is how do we begin to think about lowering our energy debt and our energy burden for all Virginians, but particularly for rural and Black and Brown communities where the energy burden is so upwards of 13, 14, 15%, where generally we would imagine that, and a goal that we would like to see is 6%, and for everyone. Energy burden, in other words, how much of your monthly income you pay for to have you energy.
When I started to first get involved with understanding how my utilities actually worked. I live in the house that I was born and raised in, that my grandparents built, and so this home was built in 1959, and so I didn't, I wasn't aware of how I was losing, how my electric bill was so high, and how I was just really losing so much, so much energy, and how my bills were just crazy. And I just thought that's the way it was, until I actually had my house surveyed, and they broke it down of my insulation and my windows, and how the house was just old, and how I needed to upgrade here and there. But until I was taught, until I really was understood what this was about, people in my neighborhood, we don't know about this.
Part of what we also need to be thinking about when we're thinking about our energy and energy justice is energy efficiency. What does it mean to have meaningful, good insulation?
Yes.
What does it mean to have windows that tightly fit? What do all of those things mean for the bottom line each month for our energy burden, our energy bills, but also for how much carbon we're actually contributing? As we call that our footprint, right? So what is our own personal, individual, family carbon footprint? So it's not just, so we're not just thinking about, am I recycling, right? Am I buying less plastic? Have I removed myself from using styrofoam? Have I, the things that we think about? Do I get plastic bags in the store? Do I get paper bags? Some of those individual decisions that we can make that have an impact, but in fact, the reality is that we need to have a larger, more aggressive impact than individual decisions and individual conservation can possibly garner for us, because the situation of climate crisis is so urgent. We've got to start thinking about what are the large what are the decisions that we can make that can make large and meaningful impact on how much carbon and methane and other greenhouse gases are being emitted into the atmosphere. And so one of those, we know that the energy sector is a major contributor to carbon and other greenhouse gases. And so energy efficiency, as well as some of the work that's been done. We have our governor has made renewables, 100% renewables, a goal, right, for 2050. And it would be wonderful if we could hasten that, right? And if we all were able to do our part as well as industry do its part, we can get there.
This is our issue as well. Sometimes we think this is not affecting my community. This is something that, and I'm talking about the Black and Brown community. This is something that I shouldn't be concerned about. It doesn't affect me, but it does.
Where affordability is challenged, where accessibility is challenged, you often will find Black, brown, poor, elderly people. And it's really about protecting and recognizing vulnerable members of our community, and vulnerable not because they're, born vulnerable or because there's something pathological or there's something inherent among them or about them that is vulnerable. They're vulnerable because of policy making. It's about policy. It's about power. It's about including and affording, giving people the ability to actualize their citizenship fully, and recognize that all of that is part of what it means to be a just society. That we're including. And that we are, not unfairly burdening or unfairly oppressing any sector or any demographic. And we'd like to see a time when we get to a place where individuals can actually, purchase and own solar, and even maybe we can have some private wind farms and other access to renewable energy sources that communities can collectively invest. If you look to our neighbors, for instance, Maryland, communities there can, for instance, a church could purchase solar panels and use the excess energy that they create to support their neighbors. We can't do that in Virginia yet. And so those are some of the kinds of things that would put power in the hands of the actual people.
I'm glad you brought up about like solar panels is for the wealthy, because it can be intimidating. I mean, I thought that at one time, I can't afford this. I can definitely not do this. But that's why it's important that we educate our communities, so that we know that this is for all of us. This is what's going to make us a better community, a better city, a better state.
Well, imagine if your city, you as mayor, if your city could use, city property for solar farms and be able to, help
Right.
Low-income citizens and or elderly with their energy access, because you are creating excess energy than the city needs itself. Those are some of the ideas and some of the goals of energy democracy, to be able to empower communities, not just individuals, but empower communities to have better access and to be able to make meaningful decisions about how they can use energy.
Right.
For the benefit of everyone.
For everyone, yes. Now, Dr. Harris, our discussion is a part of Harrisonburg's International Festival, which is an annual community gathering that celebrates the cultural, racial, and ethnic diversity of our area, while highlighting our global, local connections. Can you tell us, what does climate change and energy have to do with having an international perspective?
The simplest way to think about it is whatever we do here has an impact for people all around the globe. Climate crisis is about how globally climate impacts more severe weather, fires, larger storms, flooding, sea level rise, how all of that is as a result of what we do on the local individual level. And so what I do here has an impact for the fisher, the person who lives off of fishing in Sri Lanka or off the coast of Africa or in China. And so it's important for all of us to, as a global community, to recognize that we have a responsibility, not just for ourselves, not just for our own personal, needs, but also for the rest of the world. It boils down to what I'm doing here impacts whether people can make a living off the land, across the world. We see crops failing. We see fires in California. We see drought. We see things that we never thought we'd be possible to see. And it really does have to do with how we all collectively as a planet are thinking about how our behaviors impact one another.
How do you answer when you hear someone say climate change is a hoax or is not real?
Yeah, I don't really get into those conversations very much because I think when people say that, because they're saying that in spite of all of the facts and all of the information that is readily available, right? And if you can't hear that from a values-based perspective, and which is a lot of the work that I do, that we actually have a responsibility to our neighbor, and that if you're coming from a religious perspective, and a Christian or Muslim or any of the Abrahamic religions, they all start with a garden, right? They all start in a beautiful, pristine garden where plants and animals all live together, and plants grow easily, and it's only through our bad behavior or human bad behavior that we start to have problems with the garden.
Yeah.
But that even still that the first, I like to talk about the first mandate, if you're coming from a religious perspective, the first mandate given to humans is to care for the garden.
Yes.
And that was never rescinded. It's our responsibility. So if I'm a scientist, I'm not going to go into the lab and create, something that can destroy the garden. I'm going to think about all the ways that I can make the garden more beautiful.
We have to take care of the garden. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. What would you say that we need to do in the Friendly City to make a change? And how can we bring more people in?
So I would not dare to tell Harrisonburgers, what's the right word? The citizens of Harrisonburg, I would not dare to deign to tell you what I think you can do better or do. We create and build beloved community. It doesn't just come out of the sky. We must do the work together. And so I'm excited about what Harrisonburg is already doing. And I hope that we can be just partners and be supportive of that work. So I have no critiques. I have no suggestions. I wouldn't suggest anything different for people in Harrisonburg than I would for people here in Richmond.
Well, Reverend Dr. Faith Harris, it's so good to meet you. And thank you so much for spending time with us today. And I promise you, Harrisonburg, we're going to keep moving forward with this. And we appreciate everything that you're doing with us. And we look forward to partnering with you in the near future. So thank you so much.
Thank you. What a delight it was to meet you. And I hope to meet you and talk to you in person whenever COVID-19 lets us go. We will have an opportunity to meet. And it's been a wonderful delight and an honor to be in conversation with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Pete?
Wow. Thank you both so much. That was so great. And before we go, Mayor Reed, I wanted to give you the same opportunity that you gave the Reverend Dr. Harris. Is there anything you would like to say a little bit about how our viewers can learn more about the work that you're involved in, and any of the programs or opportunities that you might want to share?
Right. So, we're really doing great work here in Harrisonburg, and so I'm so pleased that Dr. Harris gave us a thumbs up for what we're doing, because I do think we're doing great work. We continue as city council members. We continue to work with our EPSAC committee and continue to look to them for more. Programs and issues and challenges that we can work together to make Harrisonburg a better community. And then I'm really excited, to say that I am becoming more educated as well. And so I look to educate our communities better, so that we can all understand that we need to be a clean, green community.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. And one last thing before we go. If people are interested in getting more involved to make the change in Harrisonburg, they can visit the Clean Energy for All website at 50 by 25, that's BY, 50 by 25 harrisonburg.org, where they can sign our petition. Their organization or business can make an endorsement of that campaign, and everyone should remember to vote. Vote for candidates, vote at the local, vote at the state, vote at the national level, for candidates who understand the importance of climate and energy justice and who are committed to taking action. And thank you so much, Mayor Reed, Reverend Dr. Harris. Really, really appreciate your time and your energy and your support on this. And with that, I'll sign it off and say, take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.